Have you ever prayed for something for so long that you almost stopped believing it could happen? I'm not talking about a quick prayer you whispered once. I mean years, decades of waiting, hoping, crying out to God and watching nothing change. I know what that feels like. And maybe you do too. You start to wonder, did God hear me? Did I miss his promise? Maybe my story is just going to stay unfinished. But what if I told you that the silence isn't God's absence? That delay doesn't mean denial. In our last two videos, we walked with Mary Magdalene, who discovered that our Redeemer still calls us by name, and with Naomi, who learned that even in bitterness, God was planting seeds of redemption. And today, we step into another life of another woman of faith, Elizabeth, a woman who carried unanswered prayers for decades, yet found out that God's promises always arrive on time. Luke chapter 1 introduces us to Elizabeth. She and her husband Zechariah were righteous, faithful, serving God, but they were childless. In that culture, and even in our culture till this day in year 2025, barrenness is not just a personal pain, it is public shame. People whisper, they judge, they assume something must be wrong. And isn't that how life sometimes feels? You are doing everything you know to do, working hard, praying, showing up, believing, yet the very thing you've longed for seems withheld. Maybe for you, it isn't a child. Maybe it's healing from a health battle, or a dream that refuses to take shape, or a breakthrough in your finances that never seems to come. Like Elizabeth, you've prayed, you've waited, and after so many years, maybe your hope feels thin. Maybe you've started to accept this is just how it is. Maybe my prayer will never be answered. But then everything shifted. In the scripture, in Luke chapter 1 verse 13, it says, "Do not be afraid, Zechariah. Your prayer has been heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you are to call him John." Did you catch that? Your prayer has been heard. Not forgotten, not ignored, not dismissed. The prayer Elizabeth may have whispered decades ago was still echoing in heaven. And at God's appointed time, he was answered in a way that was bigger than anything Elizabeth could have imagined. Because this wasn't just about her, the son she carried, John the Baptist, will prepare the way for the Messiah himself. Sometimes the delay isn't about punishment, it's about purpose. God times his answers so that your story becomes a testimony that impacts far more than just you. Elizabeth went from being whispered about in shame to being celebrated in joy. Neighbors and relatives rejoiced with her because the Lord has shown her great mercy. What looked impossible became undeniable proof of God's faithfulness. And here is what I love. Elizabeth didn't just rejoice quietly. She spoke life over Mary too. When Mary, the mother of Jesus, visited her, Elizabeth's child leaped in her womb, and she declared, "Blessed is she who has believed that the Lord will fulfill his promises to her," in Luke chapter 1 verse 45. Think about that. A woman who had carried disappointment for decades became a voice of encouragement to another woman stepping into her divine assignment. That's what God does. He doesn't just redeem our story for us. He redeems it so we can breathe hope into others. So what does this mean for you? It means your unanswered prayers are not forgotten. It means God's delays are not denials. It means that even in the silence, heaven is still moving on your behalf. If Elizabeth's story teaches us anything, it's this: God is never late. He is always purposeful. And when his promise shows up, it carries more impact than you could ever imagine. So hold on, keep praying, keep believing, because your story isn't finished yet. In Mary Magdalene, we saw that God still calls us by name. In Naomi, we learned that even bitterness can bloom into blessing. And in Elizabeth, we are reminded that God still fulfills his promises, even to women who've waited a lifetime. That means he can fulfill his promise to you too. And stay tuned, because our next video will continue this journey in the Living Proof series. We are going to explore what it really means when God turns bitter into sweet, not just for Naomi or Elizabeth, but for you. How he takes broken places and transforms them into testimonies that glorifies his name. You don't want to miss it. And until next time, stay lifted, stay hopeful, stay blessed.